back!
Whoa, 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 whoa. You're talking about a board game and not a video game?
Bruh.
Well, let me tell you guys straight up, this isn't your average board game. It has a videotape too, a DVD, if you will. Board games were something of a staple in my house when I was younger. Especially around Christmas time, we would play anything from Monopoly and Risk to Boggle, Payday, and any other freaking game show board game you can think of. However, there was one board game in particular that my dad brought home once that I will never ever forget. It was the late 90s and Halloween was coming up, and this particular board game at the time was unlike anything I had ever seen before at the time. No, not Jumanji. It was called Atmosfear, a creepy looking game that came with a videotape to play as part of the game itself, VHS tapes being the standard media at the time. Even so, this was one of the most frightening and exhilarating experiences I ever had as a young child. Setting up the board and learning the rules was fairly standard despite the somewhat convoluted rules that this game had when you first play it anyway. When you put in the tape and this creepy figure in a robe addresses you, it sends genuine chills down your spine.
So, whose turn is it next? Hands up!
But before I delve into the board game itself, let's take a brief look at its history. Atmosfear, or its original title of Nightmare, was created by Australians Philip Tanner and Brett Clements. The first release of the game was in 1991, which was a great year by the way, with its original Harbinger, aka the Gatekeeper. The Gatekeeper himself was based off of an old cemetery gatekeepers whose job was to guard cemeteries from grave robbers, and subsequent versions of Nightmare were released for the next 3 years with different Harbingers that included characters such as Baron Samedi, Anne de Chantraine and Elizabeth Bathory. This was before the 1995 version and the first version titled Atmosphere the Harbingers, and this was where I was first introduced to this creepy board game. This version sold well above industry sales at the time and became one of the top 10 best-selling games in both the US and the UK within months of its release. They now of course have a remastered DVD version that allows for more interactivity with choices and mini-games, and of course I have 2 different copies of the version because, you know, why not? I'll also mention that the original VHS version had the Gatekeeper as a much more scary figure based on sort of how he acted, the darker colour tones and the creepier script, than that of the DVD version where he cracks jokes a bit more, he's a bit more light-hearted, the background, whilst looks like it's in a lava pit, is definitely much more brighter. Whether that's to appeal to younger members of the family, I'm not too sure. Maybe the old VHS style looks creepy these days anyway, which helps. Or maybe I just remember it being more scary as I was younger when I played that. Anyway, moving on. Just an FYI, I'll be talking about the rules of the game based off of the latest DVD version, as it's the one I remembered well and last played a few years back. The objective of the game, whilst not sounding too dissimilar from other board games, is to reach the centre of the board. However, it's not that straightforward to get there. In the centre of the board is a container known as the Well of Fears, and each player has to write their greatest fear on a little bit of paper at the start of the game and put it inside, hoping that when they reach the Well of Fears at the end of the game and pull out their own fear, they can read it aloud and win. Now you play as one of 6 characters, all from well-known fiction and myth. Now as I mentioned, it's not straightforward to reach the centre and read aloud your fear, as you have to collect a different coloured key from each area of the board. There are a number of different ways to collect keys, either via the key spaces, in duels with other players, or via fate or time cards that are collected and played at specific points of the game. However, one thing I've not mentioned is the role of the gatekeeper, who, whilst also belittling everyone, stopping the game at random points and helping out his chosen one.
Maybe that should be chosen worm, huh? Got him!
He will also be trying to make sure that every player, including the chosen one, loses and he wins. When the game starts, you only have 49 minutes to collect all of the keys and reach the centre. If no one manages it in the time, the gatekeeper wins.
You lose, worms! Actually, I've played against worms that did better than you!
He will also make it difficult for each player in a number of ways, such as banishing them for a number of turns, taking keys from them and giving them to other players, just all round being a mean guy. Now once you start the game, due to the timer and the gatekeeper popping up unannounced periodically, it really helps to create a real level of urgency and intensity that other board games don't quite provide in the same way, in my opinion. The timer is one thing, but just try being calm in the final 5 minutes of this game as the gatekeeper pops up like every 20 seconds, making different announcements, throwing people off, and everyone is scrambling to try and get the key they need to get to the Well of Fears. The music amps up to 11 and keys are flying all over the screen. It's like freaking Black Friday in Tesco's when he pops up and drops this one on everyone.
When I give the word, you can take all the remaining keys from the board and head for the center. Chaos rules. The fastest and greediest will get the most keys. And if a few of you maggots get trampled or killed in the rush, what you gonna do? All right, maggots. Wait for it. Go!
It gets incredibly stressful and emotions run really high, especially if you're playing with a bunch of competitive people like I do. It's a game that is incredibly fun and entertaining and perfect for Halloween. It has just enough replay value, especially with the newer versions, as it enables the randomization of the gatekeeper compared to the older NHS versions. It's only an hour long, so you're not stuck trying to bankrupt people 3 weeks later like in Monopoly. And of course, how can you not have fun when a weird old man in cloth is yelling abuse at you and making fun of your middle name?
Say what? You're kidding me, right? What a stupid name. No wonder you'll never get any dates.
Thank you guys for watching. I know this wasn't video game related, but I've wanted to talk about this awesome board game for some time, and I still play it from time to time when people are winning. If you've never played it before and enjoyed the odd board game, definitely give it a go because you won't regret it. You'll have a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for watching, and happy Halloween.
Worms!